Have you ever wondered what it would be like if we lived in a world without pain, a world without soul? In centuries to come, a one world government would rise to power, where people are deprived of freedom. Aldous Huxley implemented this idea in his novel, Brave New World. Huxley published it in 1932, but the story takes place in the far future where individuality among civilization has been eliminated, in a controlled society known as the world state. Throughout the book, the abuse of technology is explored and implies that pain is necessary for life to have meaning. Brave New World is written in a detailed, unemotional style. The novel opens up with an extended explanation of the hatching and fertilization process. In the first few chapters, multiple references are made to animals, such as when an alpha named Foster claims that any cow could merely hatch embryos, and at a hospital, a character sees delta children staring at a beta named Linda with the stupid curiosity of animals. This type of imagery seems to be ironic, as civilization should make humans appear as less primitive, but in Brave New World, they are becoming more like animals. Slowly, majestically, with a faint humming of machinery, the conveyors moved forward, 33 centimeters an hour. In the red darkness glinted innumerable rubies. Detailed language as such is used to create a very dramatic writing style in order to develop suspense and ambience. Huxley jumps between scenes and repeats phrases to highlight the contrast between what characters might think if they had free will and what they are conditioned to think by the world state. The novel has frequently been a matter of subject in regards to its similarities to a much later novel, 1984, by George Orwell, when it comes to a dystopian subject matter. They are both written by men who had experienced war on the grand scale of the 20th century. Disillusioned by what they saw in society, each author produced powerful novels and an alarming vision of future possibilities. However, despite addressing many of these same issues, they are shown in different lights regarding the forms of control. In 1984, a more apparent form of totalitarian environment is seen, with the government using brute force to keep citizens aligned, whereas in Brave New World, a less perceivable method of control is used, where citizens are specifically engineered to comply in their given roles, where imperceptible measures are taken for consistent submission. Individuality is what defines you as an individual. It is the attributes, behaviors, beliefs, and so forth that distinguish every single person. As we find out further in the book, the future isn't as great as we thought it would be. Individuality is a thing of the past. Babies are created in test tubes, and everyone lives in a stratified society of clones. Brave New World is split into 5 castes: alphas, betas, gammas, deltas, and epsilons, which are in order from highest to lowest. The alphas are bound to be the leaders of the world state, and the other castes are conditioned to be less impressive in terms of physical and intellectual potential. The story follows Bernard Marx, who is considered a misfit despite being an alpha, as a result of his individuality and also the closest thing to an individual you will ever encounter in this book. After being pressured to eat Soma Sunday, he refuses to do so and says, "I'd rather be myself and nasty, not somebody else, however jolly." Soma is governmentally provided drug, a way to escape pain, anger, or any other negative feelings to replace it with an overall sense of well-being. This quote illustrates how he firmly believes in his freedom and rather be himself, even if he is in a bad mood, than to lose his identity. But his boss, strictly known as a director, sends him off to a remote island. The greater a man's talent, the greater his power to lead astray. It is better that one should suffer than many should be corrupted. Consider the matter dispassionately, and you will see that no offense is so heinous as unorthodoxy of behavior. From this quote, the director is explaining why Bernard deserves to be punished for expressing different interests and opinions that sets him apart from the others. Bernard is an alpha, denoting that he is intelligent and has the power to lead astray the members of lower social groups around him. For a society that values stability and order, his nonconformist behavior that would allow him to express difference and individuality are extremely threatening to the world state and must be controlled. The irony is that Bernard unexpectedly encounters the director's long-lost wife and son at the island. This is considered a scandalous and obscene act in the world state because the concept of parents or children does not exist, as there is a belief that happiness is derived from that. The idea of happiness correlates to a world where there are no bonds or attachments, no rejection, jealousy, or hurts, but lust and pleasure have replaced love and empathy. Everyone belongs to one another is a significant phrase that different characters repeat throughout the text. It means that relationships, especially intimate ones, are condemned as every person is subjected to the desires and urges of every other person. To put simply, it is suggesting that a collective body and person is more important than an individual person. Now let's talk about the author. Aldous Huxley was born in England on July 26 of 1894. He wrote Brave New Worlds between the wars, after the First World War and before World War II. British society was officially at peace, but the social effects of the First World War were becoming apparent. Huxley noted the significant changes, doubts, in social and moral beliefs, and equality among the classes and between the sexes. At the time, the best-selling writer of utopian fiction was H.G. Wells. When Huxley read Wells' Men Like Gods, he was inspired to make fun of its optimism with his own twist of satirical irony. What began as a parody turned into a novel of its own, Brave New World. Then there is Brave New World Revisited, published almost 30 years after Brave New World, a non-fiction work in which Huxley expressed his thoughts of whether our reality is moving away or towards his visions that he had in 1930s. He concluded that our world was becoming like Brave New World faster than he originally thought, and he described this as a nightmare. For example, he predicted the ways in which technology can control our reliance on social media, pornography, the commercialization of sex, and genetic modification, which are all also part of his future nightmares. To conclude, Brave New World is a novel in which being yourself in this loveless and sinister place is out of the norms. The world state's ultimate goals are to achieve community, identity, and stability, which is sought through the use of scientific techniques to make people like to do what they have to do, as well as to eliminate every painful emotion. Typically, reading this book evokes disturbing and unsettling feelings in the reader rather than a sense of joyful anticipation. But the government-controlled society, heavily relying on caste systems, and the biological manipulation to function, how could anyone be happy? Here, Huxley asks us to look at ourselves and to consider what forces within our culture stop us from seeing our world as it really is. And when we look more closely, will we see that the world today has become a brave new world?